Namaste and welcome back to Global Desi Women podcast. I'm your host, Arti Solanki, real estate broker, a business coach, and a strong believer in sharing stories that inspire, educate, and empower women in our community. As always, I'm joined by my wonderful co host, Bhavana Shelley, an exceptional business analyst who brings such a depth and insight to every conversation we have. So, welcome, Bhavna. And before we get started, a special thank you to our today's sponsor, Om Enterprise Inc., a one stop IT solution provider for small to medium businesses. From IT consulting to infrastructure to technology solutions that help your business run smoothly. Om Enterprise Inc. is your trusted partner. All their details are available in our description below. So please make sure to check them out and support the businesses that also support our community. And now we are honored to have Sandhya Sabhnani with us. She is a math educator, marketing professional. She holds an MA in education, a BPA in marketing, a BA in economics. She is a certified to teach grades from 4th to 8th, but she's currently teaching a 7th grade math teacher in a independent school. She serves as a board member for Daya Houston organization and an ambassador to FAIR. Sandhya, welcome to Global Desi Women podcast. We are so honored to have you with us.
Thank you. I'm so honored to be here.
She has such vast education and a lot of experience in different things that we could probably talk about so many different topics with her. But our today's topic is going to be as a caregiver. And I know that as an Indian, our community, a lot of times as kids, we always worry about our parents as they age and being a caregiver, how do we, take care of them? How do we make those decisions of maybe putting them in a home? So that's our topic today. So, I want to ask you, Sandhya, that as a caregiver, we usually have, as a cultural, the Desi culture comes in our way. And how did that belief kind of shape or experience you as a caregiver?
It was just really growing up, never an option. It was not something that we thought about. It was, my mom stayed home with us. My mother in law stayed home with her kids. She took care of her in laws. And so, my husband has two sons. They're two brothers, and I'm two daughters. And so, for my sister and I, it was always something to think about being two daughters. Like, if you're thinking about traditionally, like, what will we do if we get married, we move away? So there was always like, what's gonna happen next for our parents? But it was one of those things, I'm gonna be honest with you, the option came up for me in therapy, and my therapist, like, after my father-in-law passed away, my mother-in-law is in New York. She wasn't able to live independently, but she wasn't disabled either. It was one of those situations, and so it first came to me from my therapist, and my husband was like, "Hard no. It's not gonna happen."
Yeah.
And then over time, I didn't have a house with a bedroom down. I didn't have the extra bedroom, and I also was working, and my husband was working, and the kids were in school, and it was just like, what kind of quality of life can we give her?
Yeah. Yeah. And it's always that decision always is so emotionally heavy, right? And for anybody to face it, whether it's our parents or our husband's parents, it's parents basically, and it's such a very, like I said, it takes a toll on you to make that decision. Like,
Yeah.
okay, how do we put them in the assisted living? How do we even say that? How do we bring up that topic? Because that's initial stage of even having the conversation with them. I think that's the biggest task before even looking for anything, right? So tell us a little bit about that if you could share.
Yes. One thing I would say is have these conversations early and not when you need them. And I think in our culture, it's so taboo. It's nazar, to talk about, life when you age or even death, to mention the word death.
Yeah.
So, like, you weren't able to have this conversation. Like, what are your wishes if, you're in this situation? So It really just became out of necessity. We needed and wanted my mother-in-law here. She wanted to be here near the grandkids, also to give my brother-in-law and sister-in-law a break. And how do we best do that? And so we looked at all different options. We looked at putting a chairlift in. We looked at right behind my house is an apartment complex. Should we rent a first floor apartment and like have a full-time nanny? Or, we looked at so many different options. And then we went and looked at different assisted living locations, but really what was important to us was proximity, and this place opened right 1 mile from my house.
Yeah.
And, so the way we started was with respite, and anybody can do respite. It's when a caregiver needs a break and they need to go on vacation, so you can leave your loved one for a week or 2 weeks. So we introduced it to my mother-in-law as a temporary solution. Let's try this out for 30 days for everybody. Let's try it out for us, how we feel. How do you feel about the facility? You'll still be with us every day. She would come home. She would be with us every day in the beginning, initial stages. She would have dinner with us. It was really initially just a place to sleep, and it was initially just a temporary, "Let's just check it out."
Right,
Yeah.
right. And
Even
just to understand that it was not like any health issue at that time.
No, it was just that she after her husband passed, just the way our family structure was, that she wasn't going to be comfortable living on her own. She
Right.
was on a walker, you
Right, right, right.
know, she needed her medications every day, and she needed someone to remind her when to take the medications, but she was very able-minded, active. And I'm talking about her in the past tense because she just passed away in November.
Yeah, I'm
sorry
so
to hear
sorry
that.
about that.
Thank you. And so, so you have all different options, right? In these facilities, you have independent living, assisted living, and memory care. Initially, she started in assisted living, and then we moved her to independent care. She didn't really need all the facilities of the assisted living.
So I'm pretty sure, the initial conversation, because a lot of time the guilt, for just thinking that, oh, now we're gonna have to put you in the home. And how did your mother-in-law take it? Was that a struggle? Was that
No, she's such a
understanding?
she was a very traditional woman. She did her duties. She served her family well, her in-laws, everybody, but she was a very flexible, easygoing woman, and she trusted her children, and she trusted her daughter-in-laws, like, that we would never put her in a situation that wouldn't be comfortable to her, wouldn't be appropriate for her, that we were taking her best interest, and so there were a lot of benefits because she was independent living with her husband
Mm,
for over 50 years, and then she lost her husband, and then overnight, she's uprooted and has to live with somebody,
mm.
and so, we had to put all ourselves in each other's mindset, like, she also wanted her independence. It's not fun to
Independent.
live with
Yeah.
somebody and their rules and their chaos and everything like that, so this also gave her an opportunity to have her own apartment, be in safety and security, get the medicines that she needed on a timely way, but also the proximity was 1 mile from us. We were like I said, in the beginning, she was here all the time, but then after a while, she was like, "No, I'll just come on the weekends," or we would stop by and spend some time with her in the evening, so my kids could walk over there, so very accessible.
Yeah, yeah. And this is so important because we don't want our parents to feel neglect. It's not like, okay, we don't want them anymore. We're neglecting them and that's why we're just gonna go put them in the assisted living. It's not that. It's about, like you said, she was very independent from to begin with, and she also understands she needed her space. She was willing to do this because she understands how important her own independence is as well.
Yeah,
So I feel like that is something we all should keep in mind, that it's not we are trying to neglect our parents or trying to neglect our duties, or we're not taking the responsibility of taking care of our parents. That's not
Exactly.
what we're trying to talk about, or that's not what we're trying to, say here. So I just wanted to say that and make it clear to our listeners that that is what we're trying to say here.
sitting at home all day long waiting for your family, there's a lot of isolation and loneliness
Mm.
with that, and there she had group exercise, group therapy, she had her hair salon, she had her nail salon, there were there were things that obviously, diets and dietary needs and food that we had to work with, but, she picked up painting. She made over, I mean, I don't know, a good 30, 40 canvases, a skill that she didn't even know that she had. They went on field trips, they went out to eat. She tried all the best restaurants. One of the last restaurants she went to was Hugo's, and so, they went to Kieran's. There was activity, there was life.
Mm.
And we had our Indian channels hooked up in the room, so she had her comfort, so yeah.
And there is a lesson to learn, right? We're not at that stage yet.
Mm-mm.
But it's something that, our prior generation, our in laws, and they had a particular mindset that some of them did, that my kids will take care of me, right? Our generation pretty much understands that's not going to be the mindset because we don't want to be burden on our kids.
Yes.
And I think it's a good conversation that we should have with our kids as what is the future for us, and maybe something to learn from these scenarios, that we need to plan our you
Yeah.
know our stage of life, where okay, right now we're great, we're fine, we're on our own, we're financially stable, but as we age, we also want to start having that kind of difficult conversations with our kids, that hey, these are our wishes, this is what you want to do. We may not have the same mental stage as we age, and we may not feel the same as how we would have made that decision for ourselves. There are so many families that I see struggles with that mindset. I mean, they would want the parents, to have a good life, which, you know, being at home, they're doing as much as they can. There's such a hard time even to get the caregivers these
Yeah.
days.
It's really hard, and my in-laws lived in Long Island, New York. If you're in
Mm,
Manhattan or you're in New Jersey, there are different facilities, right? And
mm,
New Jersey actually has some caregiving, some Desi caregiving, sites, but they're a wing in a bigger facility.
mhm.
But then being in Long Island, to get people to come from Manhattan or from Queens, it wasn't going to happen, it
No.
No,
wasn't easily available.
Even
no,
in
no.
Houston, we don't get caregivers that easily because I know with my father-in-law and even with my mom, we had a hard time finding anybody for even a few days if we wanted to go out and we were like, okay, what do we do now?
Yeah, same thing.
So it's
Even
very difficult.
they say New Jersey is very big on that, but there's a lot of bureaucracies. There's a lot of, there's also a lot of loopholes that people find with the caregiving type of services. So even with my mother-in-law, I was looking for one, and they would come in and they would like, I can cook for you, but I won't take care of her. And you still sign off on it. And I'm like, no, I'm not doing that, you know? So those kind of things goes around, and it's unfortunate because when you really really need help and you want to keep them home, right? So they're more comfortable at home, they're with their loved ones and everything, but it becomes so much difficult because you can't find proper caregiving, and these facilities are there. Some are great, some are not that great.
And they're expensive, there's a new one that just opened in Dallas that I
Mm,
toured for my own
mm,
parents, and I actually looked at it for my mother-in-law. It's called Bhartiya Nivas.
mm.
It is just opened in Dallas in June. It's 100% Desi inspired. They have an Indian chef, a vegetarian chef. It's a converted, hotel. It's beautiful. It's gorgeous.
Okay,
Has
good.
360 units, and I think right now maybe they have 40 or 50 residents. It just opened in June, and my parents came to Dallas in the '60s.
Mm,
So they've been there, they're in their 80s. It's also a mindset for them to take on that expense. Maybe they haven't planned it, but I know for my mom, she's independent living, but she's 81 years old. She's been cooking since she was 10. She's
mm.
tired, she's exhausted. She doesn't wanna do this anymore,
Right.
But just to have a cup of tea, have someone make a cup of tea for you is a blessing, and we just Arti and I were talking earlier too, like, we don't live in the same types of community We're not multiple siblings. We're usually just 2 siblings. We don't live in the same state. So even, like, I know people struggle between here and India, but the struggle's here between here and Dallas or here in New York
Yeah.
and here in San Francisco. And so, our parents are tired. Even if they're still living independently, they're really tired.
They
Yeah.
get tired. Yes, absolutely.
And
They
it's
can't do.
not I don't find, like, a lot of times when there are multiple siblings, they're like, "Okay, you can stay with us for a few months and then stay with the hopscotch," like they're hopping from one place to another. And I feel like, okay, now that's a little too much for the parents. I don't feel quite comfortable with that either.
It's not,
Yeah.
yeah, at some point, it becomes difficult. I have some relatives, Nourish has my husband has some relatives in Spain, and it's life like there is like India. All the brothers and siblings, they live in, like, a 1-mile radius, and in one couple where they have or one family, the 2 brothers, the mother goes back and forth between 6 months here, but that it was just 1 mile away. It's not like she's gotta pack her bags, get on a plane.
Right.
Right.
She's just going 1 mile away, you know?
But
That's
even then, I feel like at that age, their life do get disrupted.
yeah,
Even if they're like 1 mile away, I think that comfort that okay, now they're acquainted here, the bed, the how they sleep, and everything else, and
that's true.
then you move, and
I
it's
was just gonna talk about the sleep because even for me, like if I change my bed, I feel like, oh gosh, no matter how comfortable the hotel room might be, but when I come home, I feel like, oh, I slept today.
And
yeah,
that's actually it's funny that you said the bed because the bed wasn't comfortable for my mother-in-law. It was, hurting her back, and so we invested in a bed that she was more used to, right? And so making even an assisted living as comfortable as
as
possible.
comfortable.
Yeah, yeah. So, what do you think is the most biggest misconception about assisted living in our community? What kind of questions do you really get to hear about it?
First of all, the misconception is that, what are people gonna say, right?
Mm.
You're so worried about what people are gonna say, and people do say. I'm not gonna say that there weren't not any unsolicited comments. They were. But first of all is you gotta block it out. You just
Mhm.
gotta block out no one lives your life, no one knows your circumstances, no one knows your day to day. So you've got as the caregiver, you have to be really strong and say, "I know people are gonna make comments. I know what's best for my family." So the first thing everybody has to be mentally strong as they're engaging in this. The second thing that you want to look at when you're looking at these facilities is that you do wanna talk to other people that have been in the facilities. In my mother-in-law's case, she was the only Indian in the facility. So there wasn't any other Desis that we could talk to. So when we did respite, that trial period, more me than my husband because I like to talk. I was just talking to random children that I would see showing up to the facility. "Oh, your mom's here. Who's your mom? Oh, your dad's here. Tell me about it." And so we got a lot of guidance from the people who'd been there for a while. And one of the things is you do wanna make sure you are visiting often. That
Yes.
they and randomly. You
Yeah.
Mm.
show up at random times, you show up often, and so when they know that anybody in this family member's gonna in this family unit's gonna show up, daughter-in-law, son, grandkids, maybe my son would go over there and play bingo, it just makes them know that, "Hey, we're watching, you're watching, we're all observing, and so we're gonna hold you to the standards that you promised."
Yeah.
And then just, there is negotiating, you can negotiate price, you can negotiate,
Wow.
um, sometimes the deposit, like there's a one-time fee. And so obviously, my mother-in-law, she would come and then she would go back to New York and she would come, and we didn't have to keep on repaying that fee again. And she was going to go to New York before she passed, and we really didn't want her unit to move. So the first 2 times we did it, her unit moved and we had to resettle her in and then pick from the rooms that they had available. So, like, could we negotiate a price that we could keep that unit, but not pay the full amount? And we did get them to agree to a decent price that we were both comfortable with. So that if she was going to New York to go visit her and their son, when she came back, it was still her apartment. Her
Right.
bed was still there, in her situation, there was a after she moved in, there was a nightclub that got built right next door, and so, there's been a lot of, issues with
Noise.
noise control. that the facility's been working through, but the apartment that my mother-in-law had, it didn't she couldn't hear the nightclub noise. So
Yeah.
that was another reason we're like, we wanna preserve
Yeah.
this unit for her, and so you can talk about, well, you know, she's only gonna eat 2 meals a day, can I negotiate that price? Not everybody will negotiate, but some places will.
That's
So
really good to know.
is it generally like expensive because a lot of time, like, the parents really don't have much because they probably are the first generation, but not from that
Yes.
path that they've made their wealth, right? They're basically dependent on the kids. So was it very expensive or what was the rent
So, because we're inside the loop for the location, it was I would quote you somewhere between 5 and $8,000 a month.
a month? Okay. Okay.
So, but if you think about, like, renting a place in, like, West Jew or somewhere around inside the loop,
Yeah.
usually you're talking even a small place, 3 or 4,000, right?
Mm,
So when you think about the numbers and if you think about hiring the care, you've got RNs, you've got nurses, right?
mm,
It it's still expensive, but you can start justifying some of the expenses, right? Now, the place that we looked at in Dallas, they had smaller units, they had efficiencies. If you're in a one-bedroom efficiency, at the market rate they were quoting us was at, like, 3,000 or $3,500 a month. But you can also they have prepayment plans if you pay 12 months ahead of time. There were other ways that you could drive some of that price down.
mm.
That's
Mhm.
the unfortunate part of, um, where we are in healthcare in, like, aging, senior
Right.
living in America.
Yeah.
It's hard to afford it.
Yeah, yeah. And then these are like even the one that you mentioned in Dallas, is that also private or is that like a running for Medicaid and Medicare?
No, all of these are private.
We
All of
don't
those.
have that in Texas, I believe, right?
No, I think New York is different.
Yeah.
It's
Mm.
yeah, we
We
don't
don't
have
have that as that's not funded by the government here in Texas. They're all private assisted livings.
Well, the assisted livings are not funded by the government. The ones that are like these are just
Nursing
nursing homes.
homes?
yeah.
Nursing homes? Yeah.
Nursing homes are, paid by the Medicare and Medicaid. If someone
Yeah.
has Medicare and
And maybe
Medicaid,
that's even true
yeah.
here. She wasn't in a nursing home, so
Mm.
I'm sure there's some government assistance here too for nursing
Yeah.
homes,
Yeah,
yeah.
I think,
Nursing home
the nursing homes are, but I'm not sure about that either. Those are 2 different things, the nursing homes and then
and
the
then assisted living.
living. I mean, there are so many now, if you think about it, there are 50 plus communities which are also kind of like assisted living, places where they have like beautiful apartments and everything is included. There's so many activities and there's
Yes.
more and more. I feel like people are looking into that and seeing that they need a quality of life, like you said in the beginning. It's just a choice that they make, that okay, what do we want? Do we want a big house and do the lawn care for until you're 80, 90, until you can? Or do you want to enjoy your life and make friends at that age and just, not worry about I have to for this or that? And then people do choose that. A lot of people are choosing that.
Yes, and my in-laws, before my father-in-law passed, they were living in a 55 plus community.
Mm,
And so for New York, that was important. They would come and shovel the snow off the driveway. There was a country club. They also had planned activities. There was a dining hall there. So we have some of those also in the Desi community in the US. The one in Florida, Shanti Nikétan.
yeah.
And then I heard that they're building one, I think, in Georgetown now.
Wow.
Mm.
And then I think there's one in Sugar Land, a different company, but you're seeing more of those 55 plus, communities because people want, friends that they can socialize with because that was a challenge, right? My mother-in-law was the only Desi in the community. Food, right? There's only so many non-Desi meals you can eat in a day,
Yes.
especially when you're not used to it. So we would supplement dinner. But she was really cute about things. Like she was very bold. She taught the chef how to make lassi. She
Mm.
went and bought bindi from HEB and cut it up for them and said, "This is how you make it." And she
Oh,
even
wow.
taught them how to make achar, like so like you have some in her room. So like they had a good relationship and, she embraced where she was, and
So
so
I believe that means she did speak English, right?
yes, limited, not fluent like the way we were speaking,
Right, right, right.
but, enough where she could communicate and they would understand
Understand it.
her, and so
Right, right. See, a lot of times, even some parents can't even speak English. And so that's why it makes it so difficult to find a place where, because without communication, they will be totally lost over there. It doesn't matter
Right,
how
just
many people are
more
around
lonely.
them. Yeah, they won't be able to do the conversation. So I wish there were more and more Indian communities that were
well,
built.
I'm really watching the one in Dallas closely. I mean, my parents are in Dallas as well. My parents both toured it, my sister toured it, my husband toured it. My mother, when she would come visit my mother-in-law here, she's like, "This is dreamy." She was just like, just to be in a place where you just can not worry about the house or worry about the cooking, and she could see everybody seemed happy, and
Mm.
so my mother, really enjoyed touring the place in Dallas, and it's in the back of their minds, because it's just so much you can do in this age by
I
yourself.
mean, these days, if you look at property prices and property taxes, I mean,
Property taxes,
New
yeah.
Jersey is huge with property taxes. You are better off in your old age to rather pay the monthly fees on the assisted living than having a house, maintaining the house, doing all the chores that are related to the house. You're better off in a private facility like that, which the only thing is that they need to live up with their standards, how what they do, right? With giving the care.
You
And
have to
if
hold them accountable.
right. So I think people need to do their proper research, pricing, getting the estimates or touring. And I think you did the best where you actually did kind of a practice run to certain extent that she went for temporary, then came back,
Yeah.
went in there. A lot of facilities don't allow that. Like they want that long term,
No, but you do the most
contract
of
and
them,
stuff.
even the one in Dallas, is called respite, because
Okay.
they understand that even, like, if your parents are living with you, like you said, Arthi, earlier, you've gotta go out of town, there's a wedding in the family or there's a wedding where, like, but parents don't wanna come or not able to come, and you need a break. So, a lot of the private facilities, but it's max 30 days, and they're
Mm.
very strict about that. They're like, "You can stay max in respite for 30 days." Speaking also, I have a friend in Austin whose mom also made the decision to go to assisted living, and she put her house on rent,
Mm.
and so she's collecting 2/3 of whatever she's paying from her rent, and then she's using the other 1/3 from her savings.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
So people are getting creative, and but I also know what you're talking about, the families that don't have any generational wealth here, who haven't created it, they haven't created their life here. They're coming to see their children from abroad. They have different expectations,
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but
Not only that, like I said, language, food, everything becomes, if you think about all those, points, then it becomes so much difficult for the parent to be like, even no matter how much they want their independence, they would still be like, what am I going to do there? Because it'll be like going to a place where nobody, they can't talk because don't know
Or
how to
they
do the
don't
talk.
know anyone,
Or
they'll
even the
have to.
food, even the
Yeah.
food,
the
like
food is
you
big,
said.
I'm not gonna lie, that's why that place in Dallas,
Yeah.
they have this Indian chef, and the food was really good actually,
Yeah.
there, but, like, the food is definitely a problem, and that's why, even my friend's mom in Austin is like, you get over the food really quickly, and food is an important part of our culture.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
It
We can't
is,
live
like,
without our spice.
we can't live without our spice, we can't live we're picky
Yeah.
people, and so, my mother-in-law wasn't that, thankfully. She was very adjusting, and, I'm very appreciative of that, and we're very lucky with that, but, everyone cared for her there. A lot of the people from the facility came to her funeral, they came on a bus. She was loved and well taken care of, and I think you were asking earlier, just, like, give it a chance, right? And these people have dedicated their lives to senior care,
Mm.
and they actually know better than us,
Yeah.
right? They usually know better, they're more patient than we are,
Yeah.
because that's their job to love on your parent.
Yeah, they have a lot of compassion. They have a lot of love. I feel like not just, I mean, like, even when you look at the hospitals and you look at the nurses and the doctors and the love for the patients that they have, the patients that they have to handle them, going through, because not all patients are the same. Some might get mad, some might get annoyed, but still the nurses and the caregivers are just amazing. We've experienced it and I felt like, oh my God, God bless them because they do unbelievably wonderful job. So,
The other thing I was gonna say, as we raise our own children, I know, Arthi, your children are a little bit older, but, like, my sister's son, when he graduated from high school, he actually went to go live with my parents for 2 years, and he went to community college, and the bond that they have
yeah.
is unbreakable.
Yep.
He's now at a four-year institution in New York. He calls them every day, but doesn't call Masi or mom, like, maybe every 2, 3 weeks, right? But he checks on them, they check on him, and it's a different
It's
relationship
true.
between
Yeah.
grandkids and grandparents. They don't the grandkids are more patient and the grandparents are more patient, right? And they're more forgiving of one another. And so we have to really think about as we raise our families abroad what we model for our children, what we expect from our children, because one of the reason the extended family worked so well, it wasn't just one person taking care of the elderly, it was
Mm,
many, right? It was the neighbors, it was the community, it was the grandchildren, right? We had our children younger, and so as our parents were aging, then our kids became more capable and able to help.
mm,
And so we are sandwiched, but I think what you said earlier about to having the conversation early, but it's more than the conversation, we have to also start modeling
yeah.
for
Yeah.
the children. What does this look like? What would it be like? And I think my kids learned a lot from this experience of, how much we love my mother-in-law, but also wanted to keep her safe and happy, and they noticed. They noticed. They were like, "I think Daddy's so happy." They
Right.
felt the change in her being
Yeah.
around people, because I think being around people, even if there's a language barrier, is a lot more important than being home all day alone
Alone. Yeah.
waiting for someone to come home.
I agree to that. That's so true. And yeah, and I do agree with what you said too, because our kids learn from what they see, like how we take care of our parents or in-laws, and then they learn that too because they see it that, it's not something that, they're born here and they're too Americanized or they're not, the connection, the bond is still there.
Still
Yes.
there.
And even with the grandparents, they have this special bond. So, like you said, even my kids have a very special connection with the grandparents. So it's like sometimes it feels like they love them more than they love.
They do because they have more freedom. They're not trying to build their life at the same time and raise the children. And even my mother-in-law's grandchildren in New York, her first 2 grandchildren, I mean, they loved on her so much. It's just a different relationship. And I think we need to give the kids I grew up here. I was born here. My parents came in the '60s, but I was still close to my grandparents in India. Even though I only saw them, we could only afford to go every 4 years, but there was nothing like a Nani's home and Masi's home, so, and it was hard for my mom to be so far away, but, the difference also and what I do wanna bring up, like, my mother, she would go to India, she would leave us for 6 months at a time to go take care of her parents. I was in 7th grade, I was in 11th grade. We're not willing, our generation, we're so tied to their education and, like, "Oh, we can't leave, junior year's too important, we can't do this." My husband actually left for 6 months to take care of his dad, before he passed, and I was here with the kids, and he came back a couple times, but it was during COVID, so it wasn't really easy, we weren't
Mm,
vaccinated yet, so it's also, like, it's okay if
yeah.
we leave our children for a
Right.
period of time,
Yeah.
and I find that our generation has a harder time.
To do
Yes.
that. That's true. That's true.
Yeah. It
We
is.
got our kids
Yeah.
in too many activities. "Oh, but they have robotics, and they have this, and they have that," and
Yeah. It's like I think our life revolves around our kids more than it does with anything
then
else.
when I was growing up, and we talk about this a lot, when we were growing up, our life revolved around our parents.
Yes.
whatever, we're going car shopping, we're all going car shopping,
Car
right?
shopping, yeah.
Whatever, we're all doing it together. Our generation, everything revolves around the kids. So, and that's one thing I feel guilt about with my parents, with my in-laws, that sometimes I fall in that trap too. "Oh, but they have this or they have that." Like, I was at home at Christmas, and my mom was like, "Why don't you stay an extra day or 2? You guys have time." And I was like, "Oh, but my son has this lesson, and he has to do his volunteer hours and, all these things." And I'm like, "If you want me to stay back, I'll stay back for a day, but they can't stay back," you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
But this has been such an amazing conversation, Sandhya. We really thank you for trusting us and sharing your story and reminding us that honoring tradition is also means having the courage to evolve. And, it reflects strength and compassion as a Desi woman. And we really thank you for sharing this. It means a lot to us. It's such a different it's a touchy topic, I would say, because not everybody wants to talk about this. So it was a really touchy topic, and I'm glad that we had this conversation. And I hope that our listeners can understand this. And if they are looking forward to being in this situation, if they are in this situation and trying to start this conversation, then they learn something from this podcast. It helps them figuring out the assisted living and looking for one and what to look for and how to do the conversation with them. And I hope this conversation helps them. And to all our listeners, thank you again for being part of Global Desi Women family. If you would like to sponsor or our podcast, collaborate with us, or even be a guest on our show, please reach out to us, and our contact information will be in the description. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so more powerful stories like Sandhya's can reach out to women around the world. Until next time, stay inspired, stay empowered, and keep shining. Thank you.
Thank you.
thank you.